भद्रं कर्णैभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Let us pray together. Yes, please, it is praying together, So not just Swami praying, you all should lend your voice. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, Thou abidest in all, Thou art all, Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto Thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Opening song by Peter.
Mysterious present source of all, the world without, the soul within, a fount of life, oh hear our call, and pour thy living waters in. Thou breathest in the rushing wind, thy spirit stirs the leaf and flower. Thou wilt thou from the willing mind withhold thy light and love and power. Thy hand unseen to accents clear awoke the psalmist's trembling lyre, and touched the lips of holy seer with flame from thine own altar fire. That touch divine again impart, still give the prophet's burning word, and vocal in each waiting heart, that living psalms of praise be heard. Let living psalms of praise be heard.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्माम् अमृतं गमय. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Lead us from the unreal to the real. from darkness of ignorance to light of knowledge, and from this limited mortal existence to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. This is one of the topics that we are discussing today, very often talked about by people who know and who know little. By so many people I heard these questions about pranayama, and certainly it is a very important thing to know about in the parlors of yoga, hatha yoga, and more importantly was what I am going to discuss today is in Raja Yoga. And let me confess that I do not know much about this. So I will be relying mainly on this wonderful book of Swami Vivekananda, Raja Yoga, and in that there are two or rather 2.5, let us say, chapters on pranayama. And the particular chapter that I am going to discuss today, very briefly again, is that of the internal control of prana, pranayama, internal pranayama, rather than the external. So we shall see what these concepts mean, what this word means. So prana actually has various different meanings according to the context in which it is used. The context gives meaning to the word. It is not that the word in itself has some exact meaning, but it is the particular context in which that word is used. Even if you look at the dictionary, you will see that so many alternative meanings of a word is given. Sometimes they run a couple of pages of the dictionary. And prana is one of these words that you find used in the Indian scriptures, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and the other similar texts. So, prana means, first meaning that you see is the supreme, all-pervading consciousness. In that sense, this word is used in Upanishads, in Vedas, at various places, like Natasya prana utkramanti. Also, it is said that prano hi yesha sarvabhutair vibhati in Mundak Upanishad, that this prana expresses itself in all beings in various forms. So there, the meaning of this word prana is the all-pervading reality which manifests in all different forms. Another way, another connotation of this word is universal energy, that the energy manifests in different forms, and that, if you consider together, it gets addressed as by this word prana. Wherever you see a manifestation of energy, therefore, it gets termed as called prana. This usage is also seen in many places. Also, this third is life force, that the prana is the life, that also you see in Prashnopanishad, that it is the one amongst all the governing organ amongst all the other organs. So they tell a story in Prashna Upanishad and some other Upanishads also this aspect comes, that the different organs started quarreling. Who is superior? So the ears thought that they are, see, it is by the word you have this universe. So I am superior. Without ear, what can you do? So the ears, they decided that it can be verified that who is superior by let that person leave and let us see if what happens. Many of us think that, we are indispensable in this world. Okay, what happens when you die? Does the world stop? They say that the graveyards are full with people who thought that they were indispensable for the world. So it is. So first the ear said, okay, I will go away and let us see. But then people were living just as if they were people like deaf people, but they were conducting all their business through the visual inputs. So the world continued. The eyes left, and still the world continued like people, as if the blind people conduct themselves. Similarly, all other organs, they left, but the world did not stop. But this life force, when it decided to leave, even the moment it put its foot out of the door, all organs started losing their power. And so they immediately prayed that, oh, please don't leave. So this is considered, therefore, the central power. Swami Vivekananda sometimes has, in this book and some other books, therefore, has mentioned that it is the flywheel. Like you see in a factory, there is a flywheel which is given motion, and then all other machines, they run as they get power by connecting to this flywheel. So that is how this prana keeps on moving, and all other organs, they get their power from that. So in that sense it is called the life force, prana. So this is in many, especially in the Sankhya scriptures, you get this description of prana, that this universe has two aspects, that prana and akasha. So these are the two, kind of technical words for denoting the consciousness, prana, the conscious aspect and the matter aspect. And we see that, we all have that matter aspect and conscious aspect in us. So the conscious aspect is called prana and the matter aspect is called akasha. So that is another usage of this word that is found. And although this is not the topic today, but let me tell you that all these different meanings are somehow connected with each other. And that fourth, I already mentioned, the various organs, sensory and motor, they also get called prana. And then fifth that you see is the breath. Breath gets called as prana in a very secondary sense. We shall see what it is. And then, therefore, the second word in pranayama is this word ayama, means to control, to direct. Pranayama is controlling the finer movements of body and mind in practice. It actually means the control of this universal power. All the manifestation of power that is in the world, to control that by controlling the origin of all that. So that is the meaning of this word pranayama. But in the context of Raja Yoga, the meaning of pranayama is this, that so many different movements are going on in our body, and they are how they are controlled or how they happen, that it is we get inputs and then impulses, and then we respond to that. That is how our life goes on. There is the input and that provides stimulus, and then we respond to that stimulus. That is how the movements in our body occur. There are some which are consciously done, some happen unconsciously. It is like if you see that there is something, some particle is sticking in your tooth somewhere. What happens is then your tongue automatically keeps on trying to take that. Did you experience any time such thing? So it is unconscious. You don't decide. In fact, you cannot stop doing it. That you know that it is difficult to take it out. Why my tongue is making all this unnecessary effort? Tell the tongue, hey, don't do such thing. But still the tongue will keep on doing it unconsciously. So there are so many, these movements are unconscious movements. And there are consciously done movements that say, like you are going to dance, like Arohi did the dancing, so it is, well, now it is a conscious movement, consciously done. Yes, I have to dance, I have to practice, I have to do all these things. So that is the conscious movement. We have a lot of our movements are done unconsciously. Only a few, comparatively speaking, happen at the conscious level. That is how, conscious level, you can apply your will to do that. Raise your hand, so you will raise. No, you don't have to, but just telling. If you are told, raise your hand, then if you really want to, you can raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So, anyway, so it is, that is a consciously doable thing. If you want, you can do it. But if I say, okay, increase your blood circulation rate, you cannot do it. What can you do? It is not something that you can consciously do. It is, make your metabolic system faster. Many of us would like to do that, but that is not something that we can consciously do, you see. So these things are happening without our conscious control. Just to explain these points, but all these motions, whether done consciously or not consciously, a yogi wants to bring them under control so that they can be directed properly. So, this is what the meaning of this word control is. Control is not stopping it. And sometimes this meaning gets conveyed by controlling. That control the mind means stop the motions of the mind. That is not the idea. It is, what it means is control. Many say interpret the first or second aphorism. Second aphorism of the Patanjali's yoga aphorisms. Yogash chitta vritti nirodha. That chitta vritti means the modifications of the mind. Now the nirodha means let them not, these modifications should not occur without your directing them, because this body and mind has to be your machine, like your car. Wherever you want to take the car, that car should go there. It is not that automatically it moves somewhere. Even the most automatic cars also, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to take them to the address that you want to go to. So similarly, you want the mind to go where you want it to go. So the modifications are to be brought under control, not stopped. If you stop them, it is useless. The mind will be useless. So it is not stopping, but controlling the motion. So this is, and what is breath then? Because many times controlling the breath becomes, the common understanding, and I would say common misunderstanding of pranayama, controlling the breath. It is the breath is, controlling breath is not pranayama. It is, breath is used. It is to, like this, you see the horse there in the picture, the reins. You give motion to the reins, and by controlling the reins, you control the horse. But are the reins horse? The reins are not horse. The reins are used to control, guide, direct the horse. So breath is the tool, like those reins are. The reins. Breath is a tool to do that. But let us not confuse the tool with the thing to be controlled. What is to be controlled is the various forces that act on us and then push us around. Nobody likes to be pushed around, isn't it? It is, you want to be in control. So it is, we see all different emotions rise in us, and they keep on pushing us around. So we want that to stop. And the tool that is used for that is breath. So this is about it, about why pranayama gets confused with control of breath. In this book, Swami Vivekananda has said up 10 times that pranayama is not control of breath. And he further makes this statement clear by saying, in fact, pranayama has very little to do with breath. In fact, one can use some other tool also to achieve pranayama instead of breath. But we are not discussing that today. The point is that the prana, the force that controls our body and mind in general, that needs to be governed, and governing that will give us the access to universal power, which is difficult to believe, I understand, because what happens is, you may think, well, what can I get? Maybe if I become expert in pranayama, I will be able to control various things in this body. How can I control the universal, that power? It seems completely impossible. This is because of our identification with body. We think that we are this body, and so the emotions there I can control because I am this body. Now, with pranayama, we shall see that soon, that what happens is, if done properly, if we go far enough, then our consciousness changes to a universal consciousness. We do not identify ourselves with just a particular heap of flesh, blood, and so forth. What is body, isn't it? It is a heap of flesh and blood. Worse than a heap, at least it is constant. Here this heap is continuously changing. It is, for example, that heap before Harrison took breakfast, it was different. After he took breakfast, it became a different heap, you see. So it is all continuously shifting and changing. And then this is, are you that? No, I am not that. So when this awareness gives way to a more universal understanding of this, then I am, whatever you identify I with, you get control over that. So learning to identify gradually with the universe makes you control the universe. This is, I am telling in jest. I am sure none of you are actually accepting it because of the tremendous stranglehold of identification with body is on us. So even to think of this as a possibility is difficult for most of us right now, because this is not a matter that can be just understood rationally. This is an experimental science. So the more you actually experiment with that, the more you progress ahead with the heightened, different, expanded levels of consciousness, then you can understand what I am telling. So, now therefore, let us see how we, to just get some understanding that why the breath, how and why this tool of breath is used. Because this is the tool that the yogis use. So let us see how it works. I am not going into the physiology details of it, but let us see, as you can see here, that it is breathing gets controlled in the brain. There are, you see, the two, actually it is then combined into one space. There are this, in that space, there are these two centers which control the breathing by the inputs from the various sensors. They are spread all over. All those sensors, they convey the requirement of oxygen or excess of carbon dioxide, and so there are these chemo responders, there are the mechanoresponders, all these different things, they are giving the inputs, and then it is connected to the lungs. As you see, the diaphragm and all that makes this breathing possible. It is the various ribs and diaphragm, they make you inhale and exhale accordingly. So everything that you are doing is actually thus connected with breath. All responses, therefore, are connected with breath. So, what is now pranayama? Again, remember the last statement here. The breathing gets controlled in the brain, but immediately many therefore assume that it is controlled by the brain. It is controlled in the brain does not mean that the brain is controlling it. It is not controlled by brain, it is controlled in brain. So, the distinction between these two is to be kept in mind as we are studying this subject, that it is happening in the brain, but somebody else is controlling it. Like you can say that somebody was cooking the soups just now in the kitchen. It was being cooked in the kitchen. Does it mean it was cooked by the kitchen? It was cooked in the kitchen, but somebody was cooking it in the kitchen. So, similarly, this is happening. The control of breathing is happening in the brain, but somebody else is controlling that. This is sufficient for our today's discussion, only this much understanding about it. And now let us move to what I mean by this pranayama external. It is the controlling of the sensory and motor responses by controlling the brain center that controls the breathing. It is by controlling that, otherwise it is an automatic machine. It is the factory setting is there. It is going by with that. And thus there are and this is common with all animals as well as human beings. This thing happens automatically, that you are not much in control of what responses you produce. For example, if there is some delicious dish to eat, now what happens? You see the fragrance and the visual inputs and all that, and they awaken certain responses. And then what happens? It happens quickly with children because they don't want to hide. The grown-ups, they try to cover it up, that's all. So it is, there would be just movement towards grasping that, there will be, this salivation will be there. These are the things, these responses, they take place automatically there. So it is, now these responses, a yogi controls them. It is the extra. If a yogi wants to do, for example, Swami Vivekananda has mentioned that now most of us, 99.9% people we see, they cannot move their ear flaps voluntarily. Can you move? No, it is, yeah, you can move. No, by finger you will move that, it is, and that is why, you cannot play music by the ear, Peter, because you can't move the ear voluntarily, the ear flaps. So, it is but you have no control over it. But you see, some other animals, they do it. The cows can do it. That when there is some insects or something, the cows can ward them by, flipping the ears. Those flaps can be moved easily. And human beings cannot normally. But if you practice, you can do it. I tried in my childhood. And you can do it by turning your conscious effort there. It is not worth at all, but what I mean is that if you decide, you can do it. It just to prove the point that many of these motions, they then can be brought under control. And this is why this is important, the external pranayama. This is the controlling our responses is necessary for our personal life, in our social life. If we just act, we get a response and we act accordingly, and we know that's not good. We have to learn to control even some certain major things, minor things. We want to, do not want to succumb. It is, like we cannot resist temptations. It is so. Why? Because we have no control. So it is, that is the external control. Pranayama external can help us in doing that. Controlling our responses to this stimulus. It is sensory responses. Pranayama internal. Now we will turn to that, our main topic of discussion today, that it is, what is pranayama internal?
Control the external first.
Probably the battery is gone. Huh? Okay, got it, good. Something has happened. The external was not working. It went quite a few steps away. Here it is, internal pranayama. The internal pranayama is this opening of the Sushumna nadi. Internal pranayama is, these are technical terms, many of you might have already heard this Sushumna and such terms, but we will get to the explanation of them soon. It is a method that is used by Raj Yogis to elevate our consciousness. It is like we are human beings, and then say there is a bird. Now the bird's consciousness, awareness about I and the world, that is what I mean by consciousness. Just as human beings, we know I, and there is the world, the subject and the object, the enjoyer and the enjoyed, the eater and the eaten. So also the birds, the dogs and all other animals, they have their own awareness about these things. Now, there are levels of that awareness above that of human beings also. But since we do not see that, we do not know what it is, and since we do not see, we disbelieve the existence of that. There are so many levels of existence, and we can only sense those which are having similar vibrations of consciousness that where we are. So there are otherwise infinitely many other layers of consciousness. Swami Vivekananda mentions here that is how what gets called as spiritualism, that is possible, that people can get to see by changing something. So there are some people who will be able to see different kinds of spirits and so forth. Not that we have to brand all of them dishonest. No, not necessary, because it's possible. people have different kind of experiences by getting at a different level of consciousness. There are so many well documented these research works on that yes, people see things, people hear things which are from some other plane of existence. And there are so many different planes where beings exist. So, now where do they differ? They differ in the level of their consciousness, how they see I and the world. And then certain desires manifest in some form of life, some other desires find manifestation in some other form of life. Like you can see some plants, some other animals also, they find the living congenial in some places, in some some time of the year and so forth, and not at other places. Plants which you find in Florida, those plants you don't find in the Northeast because it is no congenial atmosphere here. The climatic congeniality is not there. So similarly, not all forms can exist in all types of climatic, spiritual climatic conditions. So the internal pranayama is to get a mobility to raise our consciousness to higher and higher. Higher in the sense where you have more expanded perception. That is what is meant by higher. Like when you are seeing from the ground, you see some vista of the ground. But if you go on the top of the building higher, then you see a bigger region of this earth. If you are seeing from the plane, then you see still bigger region of the earth. So similarly, rising in consciousness means you go to various layers of perception, but they are not really different, but the higher level includes what gets called as the lower layer of perception. So you raise your awareness, and thus what happens is your knowledge increases, your power increases, because knowledge is power. So your knowledge increases, your power increases, and thus your level of happiness increases too. And this is sometimes I had spoken on this similar topic with a different title, that vertical evolution. There is the horizontal evolution that Darwin has spoken about. But there is this vertical evolution, and that is our consciousness evolves, and this evolution makes us happier and in control of many things. So it is that is how you can see this is pranayama internal uses this, and what it gets sometimes called as the rising of the kundalini. Swami Vivekananda has presented this as the picture of this, how the yogi looks at this whole process. That there are, you see this is actually a picture that Swami Vivekananda himself had drawn for this book Raja Yoga. And it has these three divisions, the Ida and Pingala, these set of nerves. Now what is the nerve? It is like wires, It is they just made not of metal, but some organic material is used to make these wires. They get called nerves. So they sensations get passed through that, and that is how we get our knowledge. The knowledge through all the sense organs, these inputs, they travel through these, and the responses travel back. That completes our sensory knowledge, and this happens through what yogis call Ida and Pingala. These are known to the students of anatomy, and every animal which has a spinal column has these two sets of nerves, that Ida and Pingala. So, of course, the animal may not know these names. It is the Ida and Pingala, that these are for carrying the afferent and efferent and nerve currents, and that makes our for our knowledge and the life that is based on that knowledge. This is to be borne in mind, that our life is based on our knowledge in the sense that what we become conscious of. That becomes then the way we lead our life. We have some understanding of who am I. We cannot really spell it out, all of it, but sometimes we say, I am not that kind of person. I am a person like this. Some people tell me, Swami, I am a creature of habit, as if this is a very special description. It is. So, we speak as if I know that part about myself. And then we have the understanding about the world, that I therefore want to achieve this in the world. I want to become this in this world. I want to become the richest person that will go beyond Bezos and whatever names, I don't know all of them. So it is, who is the richest person these days? You know Advait? Bezos, okay. So, yeah, thank you. So, that is somebody's thought, that I want to do this in this world. And so the actions follow that goal, sometimes correctly, sometimes incorrectly. And therefore somebody end up becoming the richest person, somebody wanting to be, and many want, but it is they don't succeed in that. Anyway, so what I mean to say, look, that our understanding about I and the world, and somebody may have different understanding, like somebody would have the understanding that, well, I don't care about money. I want to become President of United States. So the life gets directed in those channels. Okay, let me see which political party suits me, and let me begin by becoming a councilman and whatever, So it is. So the efforts go in that direction. Again, many want to be the president of America. See how many candidates from each party and how much efforts they put to become. But all don't succeed. Only one amongst hundreds of them succeed per 4 years. So it is like that. So now our awareness is limited like this. But when it changes now, our aspirations become different. Our understanding of who am I becomes different, and the world we see becomes different. Therefore, they are so correlated. My understanding of I changes, and then immediately my understanding of what the world is also changes. So these are very closely linked, closely knit together. So they have that concomitant relationship. If one gets pressed, the other gets pressed. So it is like that. And then there is this canal, Sushumna. What it does is it bypasses this neural network. Because by this, the nerves and passing current through all that, it's a very, very slow process. And very feeble, very ineffective also. So because that keeps, you see how much after all of world we know. It is, and they say at this level the more we know, the more we don't know. It is, as the knowledge increases, so also the ignorance keeps on increasing too. It is because that is the nature of knowledge that we get from Ida and Pingala. Now, Yogi says, well, there is another way, not transmitting the impulses through the nerves, just as you can send the currents, the electric power or the signals without wires, wireless signals, now the world is revolutionized by wireless technology. Everybody handles now. There are hardly any phone systems or signaling systems now which use the wires. Mostly it has been transferred to wireless because the speed and then the low energy cost, all that is there. The field expands so much. Imagine, when this was not there. And actually Swami Vivekananda mentions that when even this radio signal was not invented, there was Jagdish Chandra Basu did not publish his papers, not even that, of course, Marconi came much later than that. So that was not there. And Swami Vivekananda mentions wireless transmission of power. And this is how the yogis do it, by opening this Sushumna canal, which is in almost all common people, that is closed at the bottom. And so in this book, Swami Vivekananda gives the method to open it by using breath. And that is the internal pranayama. But he has warned multiple times that this should be done only under the guidance of somebody who is an expert in this line. If not, you will just disturb your regular life also. Instead of becoming a yogi, you will end up becoming insane. Well, do you like this prospect, Charlie? No, yeah, it is that it is. And so it is, that is what happens. It is if you just try to do something that you do not have any expertise in, you just spoil it. One of our friends was, he had the tremendous interest in fixing different machines. Now, having interest is one thing, having expertise is quite another thing. So he had tremendous interest, but no expertise. So what happened, used to happen always, he would ask, hey, please give me that machine doesn't seem to work properly, I will fix it. And then invariably, he would open up this, that, and then would not be able to put it back, so it wouldn't work. So it is that because many of those are quite intricate. We should not do that unless we know how to do it. Like I tell our Paul, hey Paul, will you do that? Swami, I don't know anything about it. No, I am not going to touch that. Because touching that will just, all those delicate settings will get disturbed and you will be worse than what you were. So therefore, breathing is, as we saw, how intricate it is. Just the physiology of breathing, if you see how intricately it is connected with everything, if you want to disturb that setting, be very careful. Know what you are getting into. Some simple pranayamas one can do. And Swami Vivekananda has mentioned those also in this book, that yes, certain things are completely, they are harmless. Those things anybody can use. But the higher pranayamas cannot be used unless you have. And second thing that is mentioned here is, if you want to do that higher pranayama, absolute continence is a very important condition. It is, without that you cannot do those higher pranayamas. It is imperative. That's it, There are many other rules about food and those things are to be observed too. So that is why these things become so important. And Swami Vivekananda says here that what happens when that Kundalini awakes by this process. Kundalini is the word used to, a very beautiful word. Kundal means a coil, the energy has been coiled in. That is called a kundal, a feminine of it, because power in all the Upanishadic and Vedantic literature, the power is feminine. So, therefore, females they are considered to be more powerful. Females are more powerful than males. The power is feminine. So it is now that it is coiled up power, means it is not manifest, it is latent power. Those who have studied some high school physics know the latent energy and the expressed or kinetic energy. So it is latent. It is like we used to have, these days many of you have forgotten that, I am sure. There used to be clocks that needed to be wound, that keys, clocks which had keys. I don't think Advait has seen one. It is the clock that you keep on winding, and then every day you have to wind that, otherwise in the middle it will stop, and then you will be, lose your all schedules. So it is, now what happens when you wind? You are storing that energy in that spring. And then that gets released gradually to make the clock run. Now, this energy stored in us actually is infinite. All the power is in us. This is the statement of the Upanishadic sages and also Swami Vivekananda. All power is with us, within us. Only thing is, it is just lying dormant. And so, it is not expressed. Only a very tiny power is getting manifested. Now, you awaken that. And then, that power keeps, that our awareness gets pushed through this spinal column. It is just a figurative description. That and then you see that different centers they get awakened or enlivened by that power, and thus you see that our consciousness changes. The first three of those centers are just the most human beings who are, they have that. The maximum manifestation of that, the maximum power that one can exhibit at this third center called Manipur is where you will become master of this human world and so forth. You will become a big human being. That's all, It is, that is that. But then the spiritual evolution starts after that, the next level. Because even after you get all this, you keep on wondering, but who am I? Did I know who am I? If I don't know who am I, what's the use of all this? If I have not known myself, the life is wasted. That is what one Upanishad says. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, as this sage is telling, a very highly learned lady, her name was Gargi, the sage was Yajnavalkya. Gargi was being told, Gargi, without knowing this imperishable and eternal principle, if one does so many great things for 1,000 years, all that is just very limited. It doesn't add up to any real thing. It is like adding up many zeros. It is, they don't, even if you add 1,000 zeros, that does not make even a penny. It is, so they are all seen as thousands of zeros that you have accumulated. Because you leave all that behind, it doesn't really help you. So, but something that is tangible. He says that is to be achieved in life. So here at this third, that chakra or the third level of awareness, Manipur, one becomes disgusted with that. I need to evolve more. I need to evolve more. Many of you might have read that book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Have you? Never heard? Yeah. It's a very inspiring small book, a nice imagery. That it is, you go further, raise yourself more, and thus, where do you go? You come to the what is figuratively described as the level of heart called anahata. Means it is a very nice word that where now this world has become now meaningless to you. This world is gone, and what is this world? Striking one object with another, that is the ahata. Means there is always striking going on. Our perceptions are striking. Our hearing is like that striking. Although, I'm not using that word in that other sense, like, oh, that it struck me, or not like that. But this is the nature of the world. Striking, hitting each other, and thus making noise. Here you become calm. And thus you, at that calm level, you now see your true self, the God. Now you get the sense of that. You have not realized it, but you got a sense of that. It is almost there. Like today, you are getting that the sense of winter, it is around. So it is not yet there much, but you know now it is round the corner. It can any time now knock on our doors. So similarly, you get a clear idea that there is that ultimate principle. There is no doubt about it anymore. The conviction is strong. Just as while coming to Vedanta Society, suppose you are coming for the first time driving, and then, am I going in the right direction or not, and all. But when you see that, hey, I now got it, that it is on Angel Street, I came to Angel Street. So, yeah, now you feel confident that soon you will get it. Of course, because of the one-ways and all, people get lost even after coming to the Angel Street, that how to get here. Anyways, so it is, the point is that you become confident now that such a thing is there. And then further this lift, you go further, and now you almost see it. It is like now you are seeing the building of Vedanta Society. Hey, yeah, it is right, I am right there. Just I have to enter the building. And that is the sixth, that is shown figuratively in the head. So, this is what happens in life, and then that is what Swami Vivekananda says. As it rises step by step, as it were, layer after layer of the mind becomes open, and all the different visions and wonderful powers come to the yogi. When it reaches the brain, the yogi is perfectly detached from the body and mind. The soul finds itself free. The book, contains all that, those methods and everything in detail. And some time back, a few years ago, we had the classes on this book, the detailed discussions. So you can read this book, This is a book to be studied, not just read. Okay, I got it. Many feel that, read it. Now I got what it says. No, it is to be studied line by line, word by word maybe. So it is, let us hope one can use this and make our life evolve. Of course, let me again tell you that Raj Yoga proposes to use this method of breath, using the breath as a tool for pranayama. But that is not the only way to do it. One can do it because this you run into many risks, when you want to say go to a mountain peak, you see that this path involves these risks, these paths are much safer, and which do you choose? Well, depends on how much adventurous you are. The more adventurous person will say, I want to take more risk. And that is again a contradiction in human life. We want safety and yet we want adventures. A funny contradiction. But you see, there are different paths, like the path that Sri Ramakrishna prescribes for most people, because how many can observe that kind of strict continence? How many can regulate their life to that degree? So it is therefore that is not because the other conditions are, we cannot follow those. So follow therefore the path of devotion, the path of selfless work, the path of discernment. Through that also you get the same result. Thank you, friends. Any questions? Yes, Vailuko? Huh?
I have a comment more so.
Okay.
I want to stress what you said for everyone about having a guru or someone to teach you this and not to do it on your own. Because when you breathe through the Sushumna, you can.
Pardon?
When you breathe through the Sushumna, you can release tons and tons and tons of karma from this life or past lives. And if you don't know what you're doing, all that karma is free and you have to pay those costs immediately. And that can be a lot of bad karma. And a teacher or guru can teach you how to burn that up so you don't make those mistakes. There's a lot of bad things that happen.
Yeah, you are right.
Really, really go.
It is.
Can't stress that enough.
Yeah, one can, that is the meaning of, breathing through Sushumna, correct? Anything else? Yes, Beth?
What is the higher pranayama? Like, what's the difference between stuff that anybody can do and stuff that's risky?
Yeah, anybody can do means some of the, and they have been also described in this book. They are a few breathing exercises, like every day in the worship we take up some pranayama. That is harmless. That purifies your personality to some extent. And that pranayama can be done, and that does not need any special teacher for that. You can get somebody who knows a few things and can tell you, or you can read a book and do accordingly. They are harmless. But then, trying to, as described here, it is just a description. And Swami Vivekananda tells, therefore, so don't try unless you have a competent teacher who can teach you that hitting this breath at the closed end of the Sushumna, and then like a chisel and hammer you use to break through a closed pipe. So you break through that, hitting that breath again and again there, and thus open it. Now the description can be given only up to this. The words cannot go farther than that. But therefore, the experiments, it is that if one wants to take that risk, that if it doesn't matter if I become insane, I'm going to do that. It's a different matter, and some have tried that. I know a few people. That is why with folded hands, I warn people that don't get into this kind of thing. It is because I saw some young men as such, and then the way they were talking and all that, I found that something is wrong. Then after deep questioning, they said, well, they were practicing pranayama like this. Without a guru, they tried to practice it. So I said, why? No, I read Swami Vivekananda's book, Raja Yoga. It was given there. Said, my goodness, did you need not read that passage that Swami Vivekananda says? And it many times he says that it is extremely risky to do it without a proper teacher. So, and then their whole thinking system had been broken. They were not able to decide anything. That the center that takes decisions, what is it called? Amygdala or something. So that center was probably dysfunctional. Could not take decision, all the state of indecision. And thus the life was getting shattered. So this is how, should I do this? Should I do that? Oh, this is good. And this is good. I must do this. That person said. Next sentence, no, I don't think I will do it. So it is all like that. So, and then I met a few. So now somebody is speaking something like this, and they have a special look, that suggests that this person has been doing that kind of pranayama without a teacher. That is why he is talking like that or doing things like that. So therefore, it is that kind of pranayama of hitting this breath with that consciousness. We do not know in most pranayamas that are taught in, say, our regular worship processes or in the Hatha Yoga, they are the breathing techniques. And as such, they cannot be called pranayama because there is no accompaniment of the consciousness in that. That take your consciousness by using the vehicle of breath. Like you put yourself in a bus and then, or in a car and go somewhere. So use the breath as a car and put your that thoughts, or it is difficult to exactly tell that, put it in that, and then as the breath hits that, that consciousness is actually hitting there. So that's a process that is the real, this crux, the central feature of this internal pranayama. That's it. So let me tell you the clicker. Okay, yes, it will click. Let's hope. The upcoming programs on okay, the closing prayer is put in this way and the flyer is put in the opposite way, so it is well, that is coming Sunday. Oh, interesting topic. Price of God. If you want to God, then you have to pay the price. So what is price of God? So, and then there is a music concert that will, although it is not announced in the flyer because it got decided later, on 10th in the evening there will be a music concert, a sarod recital. We didn't have sarod recital for quite some years now. So this is an expert sarod player, Anirban Dasgupta, accompanied on tabla by Amit Kautekar. They will be giving this concert on the evening of 10th of this month, next Sunday. Other programs during the week, Tuesday and Friday classes at 7:30 p.m. will go on as usual. Tuesdays, the topic is Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. Fridays, the topic is the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, 6th chapter. And there is a retreat coming up on December 7th. So, if you like to participate in that retreat, please register either on the website or at our Naomi's desk, or you can just mail it also. So now let me do the closing prayers by flipping it like this. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest itself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.